There's quite a few games out there that are really cool, but because I've been living under a rock this entire time, I don't even know about them. This one might be one of those. I don't really know a whole lot about what's going on here. Just from this initial screen, it does look pretty damn cool. But I have received a ton of recommendations to check out Mandalore's review on this particular game. So, well, I say this particular game. Brigador? Is that how you would pronounce this? You guys know me, I'm not the greatest at pronouncing anything really. But hey, maybe there's some cool lore here for us to check out. So, before we get into that though, definitely go and support Mandalore. Link to the OG video is always at the very top of the description. Oh, I didn't even notice we had like a small profile picture of our pilot over the top left.
Raid leader is dead. Solo build rate must fall.
I think we were just stepping on people too, weren't we? Damn. I'm loving already the music as well as the game's art style. This is really hitting that area of my brain that triggers the nostalgia despite never having played video games like this in this era. And I wonder if this is a bigger setting or if it's its own IP. Because like a Battletech game like this could be pretty damn cool. Maybe it is, who knows?
Welcome, Brigador.
Brigador, okay.
Brigador is a wonderful game. It was largely written off at release, and today maybe that can be fixed a bit. Brigador is a real-time tactical mech game, but even calling it a mech game is debatable since you could ride around in tanks or in anti-gravity vehicles. The game takes place in the Outer Rim planet of Novo Solo on its biggest city, Solo Nobre. It's essentially a space banana republic with all the fun things get attached to those. It was founded as a corporate mining colony, but taken over in a revolution by the enigmatic Great Leader. It's been many years, and now Great Leader is dead. The very night he dies, the original company offers contracts to warriors living on Solo Nobre. Destroy targets of interest and pave the way for a corporate invasion to retake the planet. Brigador has a story campaign with a very...
That does feel very Battletech. It's just all these corporations and groups vying for power. But I suppose it's a winning formula, because while I don't know a whole lot about Armored Core, I think they also go in quite a similar direction. And from a gameplay standpoint, it makes sense for us to be mercenaries, because then you can have just such a diverse cast of characters and vehicles for you to operate.
Very useful tutorial built right in. As far as the story itself goes, it's mainly a backdrop and you are safe to ignore it. That doesn't mean there's nothing worthwhile in it, but I'll come back to that much later. The freelance missions may be the hardest.
I definitely feel like strategy games, some are okay with kind of getting away with a serviceable story, but I definitely think there still needs to be a story, and it's made even better when the story is good. Because to me, the story is the driving motivation for me to come back and continue the campaign. Why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? If there isn't really a reason and it's just fun gameplay, sure, maybe it can get me through a few missions, but at least for me, it's not enough to keep me going.
The game, but it is worth going through the campaign once. Like, yeah, no shit, the tutorial's a big help. But campaign missions make you choose between a few preset loadouts for each mission, so you'll get to try tons of vehicles and weapons to find what you like. Though since we are on tutorial stuff already, I should mention the controls. You want to change them. Immediately, I'd say immediately. So here's why. Glancing at early gameplay trailers, you might think that this was a twin-stick shooter, and it wasn't. But if you fire it up now, it plays a lot like one, so what happened? Well, Brigador is actually designed around tank controls, which are relative to the vehicle. The current default is screen absolute. That means pressing forward always sends you towards the top of the screen, and all movement directions are relative to the screen. This does make it easier to pick up and play for the first time. However, Brigador has a lot of nuances that will hurt you in the long run if you do this. Screen absolute means you don't need to think about where your vehicle is facing that much, which is a bad idea when the game has a directional damage system. Shots in the rear hurt more and you're training yourself to walk ass backwards without even thinking about it. Beyond that, not every mech has a top that can spin around like a tank. So turning around on screen absolute means you might go in a direction you didn't want and you end up fighting with the controls.
Gotcha. Like, obviously, the more quote-unquote modern controls may be easier to immediately pick up, but in my head, this is very similar to like classic controls versus modern controls in fighting games, where if you're learning fighting games using modern controls and then you try to pick up a new fighting game that doesn't have that, and it just has the classic arcade stick motions, then you are probably going to end up struggling. Whereas if you had picked up the classic mode, a lot more of the motion inputs would be transferable. Now, personally, I've never played a game with tank controls. I've only recently talked to Leo about how during his Resident Evil playthrough, a lot of his viewers wanted him to use the classic tank controls, and it's been quite a learning process, but even he would recommend that if anybody gets into the like OG Resident Evil game, to start out with the tank controls, especially here where there's very clear reasons to do so, then yeah, definitely change them. But now it makes me curious whether there is any sort of discussion surrounding the more modern controls relative to the position on the screen, as opposed to OG tank controls, in a similar fashion to the modern and classic controls in fighting games. Or if it's something that's basically agreed on that like tank controls in these kind of games are just better.
Tank scheme can be trickier and make your first half hour or so awkward, but in the long run, it's well worth it. Of course, it can be set for a per vehicle basis, so if the speed of some of the anti-gravity A-grav vehicles is too much for you, you can keep that on screen absolute. Well, if tank controls are the chosen way, how come the other one is the default? It's because players saw the trailer, thought it'd be a twin-stick shooter, bought it, and when it wasn't, they refunded it. The developers then released the free Up Armored Edition update. It had new missions, maps, mechs, and pilots, but also included the new control scheme. Well, it was always there, but now it's the default. So why change what you designed? Well, it didn't sell well. At all.
So the interesting thing about that trailer is that it's a very good trailer for a different game.
No, stop it. That was a great trailer. Please stop feeling bad. Okay, control.
Oh, these poor devs, man. Trailers do set expectations, however, and if things aren't made incredibly clear to the viewer of what exactly they're looking at, and it just so happens to not be what they expect, then yeah, I can see this rift forming between their expectations and the money that they used to buy the game, and then the game not being that, and so they refund it and complain to the developers. But especially with these smaller indie projects, I would presume that these people don't really have a marketing team, so that might not have been anything that they even considered could happen. Probably the most well-known and egregious case of this was the initial No Man's Sky trailer, where they had a bunch of these things that were not procedurally generated, and it was all scripted and whatnot, but that's what they believed they could do within the set amount of time before release. And, you know, it's a fair assumption. This is your vision of the game, but then it just sets unrealistic expectations for a smaller indie team. And the price tag was probably the biggest culprit in all that. I don't know how much Brigador sold for. I would presume not $60, but regardless, I hope things turned around for them because, well, indie development is where it's at in this modern gaming industry.
Full disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about the look of Brigador, because not only is it a gorgeous, crisp-looking 2D game,
it is
everything
very gorgeous.
blows up. Every single thing. Just looking at the maps give me that same warm, fuzzy feeling I have looking at something like Tiberian Sun. Most of the maps are dark, but accented by...
We need to learn about Command & Conquer. I keep forgetting to get to that. But it's like one of those classic RTS games, and with us playing Dawn of War and all that, yeah, I kind of have to. I can't wait for the Dawn of War remake too. I believe that's coming out in like, what, August? September? Something like that? Hopefully they fix the bugs that we ran into during our Soulstorm campaign.
Unusual colors and lights. If you're into cyberpunk cityscapes, I'd wager you're gonna like the look of things. I mean, what war cemetery would be complete without a strip club in the middle of it? The sheer amount of art assets.
Like, you have to have that, right? In any good futuristic setting. As an aside, we're currently playing Split Fiction here on the channel. I'm co-oping the game with Leo, and there was the question initially, what do you prefer more between fantasy and sci-fi? I would probably say, or well, I initially said, it really depends on the story. And while part of me still thinks that, I can't deny that the visuals for sci-fi just appeal to me a little bit more. And shocking, I know, right? The Mad Scientist VTuber likes sci-fi. Who could have guessed? But yeah, I always thought I was 50-50 on it. Hard for me to deny nowadays.
Some details all these maps have just blows my mind. Then you can knock everything down and see even the debris has a lot of care put into it. There's an art to destruction, and it's being mastered here. There's even an official game speed option if you want to see all the destruction in super slow-mo. So the levels are wonderfully unique and detailed, whether they're intact or not. But then we have all the vehicles. Brigador has nearly 60 playable ones, so that's not even counting all the enemy-only vehicles.
60 playable vehicles. How different are all of them? I'm sure that there's like different subgroups here. Like we can see Mech Suit, we can see Tank Ultra and Tank Heavy. But within the different vehicles in those subgroups, like how different do they play from each other?
Please, let me drive the Leviathan. I would do terrible things to drive the Leviathan. But anyway, while the mechs and vehicles may look 3D, they're actually 2D. The original models have been baked down to two-dimensional sprites from a ton of different angles. So they keep all that 3D detail, but don't look out of place in a 2D world. There's a huge variety of vehicles, and the factions have excellent visual theming. The conflict for Solo Nobre has three major players. First, you have the Loyalists, which are the remnants of Great Leader's regime. These are your traditional, practical, and professional military weapons. If it looks angular, competent, and designed to kill, chances are it's the Loyalist's vehicle. Then you contrast that with the Corvid Rebels. Imagine an entire bad neighborhood getting up, walking to yours, then punching you in the face for trying to bring out the garbage. And I don't mean the people, I mean the real estate. Corvid mechs are cars, farming equipment, and other junk that are somehow going toe-to-toe with military machines. Tanks that lose to a tractor, or a party van. Or the treehouse, which is just a mobile junkyard. The thing is just so tall that it can fire over anything but the steepest cover. This thing is—
That's actually so fun. And it makes sense, because that's all they've got. And yet they have enough talented engineers to put together machines that can go toe-to-toe with professional military equipment. It really adds to the world building and charm of each different faction.
As a shield generator, it's hard to knock down. Also, it has the best horn in the game. Using the horn is very important to establish dominance, remember that.
Yes. It is the equivalent of T-posing at your enemy.
I can happily report the party van does live up to its name, though it is hard to control holding the horn down, that's just part of the challenge. Last up are the Spacers, hedonistic raiders who spend near all their time in zero-G. If it looks aerodynamic or like a moon rover or really any other kind of 70s or 80s idea of space exploration, there's a good chance it belongs to the natural matter-fearing nerds. When they're not living out their psychotic fantasies in space, they're attacking human colonies. As we all know, living in debauchery requires adequate funding. They're incredibly different groups. No unit type is shared between the factions, so let me give an example. I can't think of anything better than the suicide enemies.
I love crowds.
The Loyalists, being the semi-professional army they are, have repurposed starship torpedoes to lob at you. They may be slow, but they'll also never stop hunting you down. The Spacers have cloaking swarms of autonomous drones for the job. They're more technologically advanced, so more likely to catch you, but they won't do the same explosion that a torpedo would. So that just leaves the Corvid Rebels. They go with the more organic, DIY solution. They charge at you with spicy TI-83s. So you need to be a little bit more cautious approaching a crowd. I don't want to get into game—
Maximum caution. Not risking anything. But yeah, that makes sense. Can't really speak about it here though, of course.
Played too much yet, but yeah, it is a great looking game. It nails a unique retro future style with really sharp looking graphics. And if you thought the visuals were good, wait till you get to the music.
Oh yeah, we already heard a little bit of the music at the very beginning, and it was already kind of hitting. But we talked about this with a lot of the other games that we learned about from Mandalore's channel, where art direction, it just means so much. If your game is going to be remembered or forgotten, art direction can help out a lot in being remembered. Man, I love this kind of music. What would you even call this? I mean, sci-fi is the obvious word that pops into your head. But maybe like, would this qualify as trance EDM? That's a genre that I do love, and it feels quite similar. This is also somewhat reminding me of, in XCOM 2, you can kind of get the OG XCOM soundtrack in as the background tracks. And I love it because it gives this similar feeling. Not quite. You could imagine those two tracks in the same game, and I think it would fit. But it's hard for me to describe, but this one feels just slightly different, slightly tonally different, to a point where I could probably pick this out from either Brigador or from the XCOM campaign. Yeah, I'm not a music guy. I do want to appreciate it more though, but I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's with the mixing of the soundtrack. I love every single thing about this particular map.
There would be times when I just stop on my tracks and listen to the music. It's all done by Makeup and Vanity Set, and there's some top-tier synth and electronic music in it. Tracks can range from being calming and ethereal in between missions, which are reminiscent of something like Vangelis, but then you'll be in a fight and you'll have like this 80s synth center stage song kick in. Then it feels like playing an action scene in a peak John Carpenter movie. That's not to say the music is derivative, because it really stands out on its own. It's 80s, Miami Vice, synthwave, cyberpunk. I don't know, but I want to get it on vinyl.
There you go. Mandalore put it in as best of a way as you can describe this feeling. I'm glad I wasn't the only one, too. I wonder how you can achieve this sort of thing. To make an original soundtrack for a video game must be incredibly difficult considering all the video games that exist out there. And definitely many of a similar genre, too. How do you make yours stand out?
Music isn't being used to hide shoddy sound effects either, because the combat soundscape is also wonderful. Every so often the music slows down, you can really appreciate it. Or you die.
God. Bro, do we have the entire soundtrack here on YouTube somewhere? I definitely want to add this to one of my playlists. This would be so good for when I go out jogging.
If you have really nice speakers or headphones, you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of it. You know how a lot of people will say that the new Doom game's like a playable heavy metal album? Well, in that same vein, Brigador's a playable electronic album.
Oh, wait a minute. Ooh. I love both of them then. This is amazing. I don't even care about the gameplay.
It is some kick-ass presentation. It's hard to do it justice so briefly. So now let's actually talk about the game and how it's the ultimate stress ball.
Okay.
Some mech games can be about the horror and futility of war and how it harms innocent civilians, the true costs of human life. In Brigador, if you step on a civilian, you get $50. As I mentioned before...
I think that's definitely the versatility of mecha stories. Whereas, well, even within the Gundam series itself, there is a lot of variety, where some may be more politically focused, and others may be more just straight up anime. And then you got mech stories like Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, one of my personal favorites. If you didn't know, I keep on mentioning it whenever I can, where it just goes completely over the top, and it's just so fun. And it's just so motivational too at the same time. I think that's an aspect that is unique to the mecha genre that I am not well versed enough in to truly describe on why that is. I can only appreciate it to the best of my capacity.
Everything in the game can be shredded. You're paid for everything you break, which isn't always a lot, but you get paid. There's no such thing as a collateral damage penalty here, everything is free game. Of course, your primary objective and payouts don't come from blowing up Grandpa's gas station. The company wants the planet back even if it's barren, so that means taking down strategic targets. You have the orbital guns that take down encroaching spacecraft,
I'm really glad that in this game, where they have such good, destructible objects, buildings and whatnot, that they do reward you for interacting with this section of the gameplay. It's just good game design. It would be incredibly strange if they came up with some sort of reason of you need to preserve everything else, but destroy only this one thing. Everything else is going to give you a money penalty, which I know quite a few games do. But come on, man, that's not fun. Maybe it's fun to some people, but definitely not to me.
Stations for the power grid. You get the idea, there's no revolution without property damage. Missions always have primary targets for atom rearrangement, but there will typically be many bonus targets around for you to break. That means more fights and more danger since you can't save in a mission, but you get a higher payout.
Cemetery?
More money means more stuff to buy for freelance missions. You can get new vehicles, new weapons and equipment, or a new mission contract. There are a huge amount of pilots to grab as well, and playing as them will modify the missions. While a campaign mission is just that, a mission, A freelance contract might have 1 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 39 missions in it, so a pilot can affect how much harder the missions get between each other and the max payout. The final step is going on the precursor James Wild ride. Maximum payout for maximum suffering. That closed casket special is no joke.
We have to have this sound effect.
Or you can sit back, relax, and tear up the town with a man who wears a paper plate for a mask. It's all satisfying, and it comes from how polished controlling your vehicle is. It's fast and responsive even on the larger vehicles, and you always have a lot of room to look around. But you still have that weightiness of it being a big war machine. Like the weapons occasionally.
Man, that is a really hard balance to find, actually. You're big, you're strong, you have a lot of weight to you, and yet you're still fast and responsive. Not to the point where it just feels floaty, but yeah, I don't know where the between line is. But when it does happen, it's a beautiful thing.
Pushing your big walker back. You do move fast, but once you're firing, you have to push through your own recoil. There are so many vehicles to master and so many different weapons you can put on. Sure, you have the traditional big cannon or continuous energy beam or machine gun, but you have more unusual ones too. You've got cluster mortars that can clear out an entire street with a single shot, railguns that can punch through all kinds of surfaces, the gamma rays that in the cannon cause super cancer, or how about the corrosive gas canister launchers? And this is just a few of the weapons, you still have the special equipment on top of that. There's a
really
sonic
cool,
audiokinetic pulse that'll just flatten anything in a cone. There's an EMP launcher which shuts down the enemies and the entire city block. You get the idea, there's a ton to play around with. It should be no surprise that the combat's a ton of fun. Even using the quote.
Of course, the amount of customization would go crazy considering how many vehicles there are and how many different weapon combinations I would presume you could put onto your mechs. And that's really the fun of the game, right? If you're playing a mech game, you want to be able to customize your mech. If you can't, then why are you even playing it?
Unquote mundane weapons is still great to play. When shots rip through enemies and everything around them, it's hard not to have a good time. But you don't always have to go in guns blazing. You can also try a sneaky approach.
Really?
Stealth and the noise you make is a big part of the game. I mean, it's a real-time tactic game after all. All the enemies.
Oh, we did see a shot from the trailer too, that enemies would notice whenever you blew up something, because, well, obviously, duh. I didn't know there was a stealth aspect to this game. That being said, if I ever did play this game, this would not be the mode I would go for. Unless if I was forced to, in which case, we'd probably spend an entire stream just trying to get through this one without me failing. Perhaps someday I will learn to be stealthy.
Enemies on the map don't just swarm to you while you kill them. If you're out of the enemy line of sight, they'll be on patrol or stay parked. But if you have a very loud weapon or blow up something like, say, an ammo depot, then they'll all come running to see what the noise was. So a big vehicle with big weapons will pull in a lot of enemies when it fires off, while smaller vehicles are quieter and can hide behind buildings. Quiet weapons means you can bamboozle the enemy by blowing up a fuel line and they'll all run over to investigate it. Then you can go after your real targets. For combat, it's nice to line up a vulnerable.
That's actually super cool. I can see that being a tactic that any sort of Battletech general might employ in order to capture a particular strategic point.
Flank or rear shot, but there's also an alarm system to the game. This can make playing as a small vehicle living hell if you're not careful. There are many spotter types of enemies, and if they see you, they'll start to call in an alarm. You only have a few seconds to kill them before it goes through, so your best bet is to kill them before they see you. Alternatively, you can take down communication towers. That'll put their phone call on Time Warner hell for longer. He does.
Ooh. Oh, it's like one of the XCOM Enemy Unknown missions where you have to like hack into radio signals, and it gives you a little bit more time, more turns, or even in XCOM 2, you had like little nodes that you could go up to that would give you more turns. Except here, it's in like a real-time mech game. I love the fact that they thought about that, and the radio stations or radars or whatever, they're not just there for show and to be destructible. They actually have a strategic purpose.
Doesn't know. He doesn't know. If you do get caught, your life becomes a lot harder. All enemies on the map, including parked ones, will activate their shield generators. Then a horde of enemies will start beelining it to you. While all of this is happening, giant walls and security barricades will activate. They even lower.
Ooh! Oh, so that's what those things were. That's awesome. The map itself also changes depending on the current state of gameplay. And of course that would make sense. In this kind of setting, they would have some sort of defenses within the city.
We're done to let enemies through, just to really rub it in. They're gonna stick around too, at least until you blow up the district substations. So why would you ever be a dinky suit of power armor?
Okay. So if you destroy the substations, then that means that they don't have any like electrical power to keep those walls up or something, I would presume, which is really, really damn cool. The amount of systems in this game, like on initial glance, I didn't expect it to be this deep, but once again, what I said at the very start of the video, never heard of this game, but it probably has something really, really cool about it. And there you go.
Armor over a walking war crime. Well, pilots aren't the only thing with multipliers around here. The tinier and more pathetic your ride is, the higher the cash payout. So when you go, is that an auto rickshaw? Why is it so expensive? This thing is a death trap, why would anybody— oh. Risk and reward. A string of freelance missions is a bit similar to a roguelike. By that I mean there's enemy randomization and a few things get moved around here and there. More importantly, if you die, you lose nearly all your earnings up to that point. So you need to properly and calmly exit the human rights disaster zone. When you're playing between these districts, you don't regenerate your hull, shields, or ammunition. You can collect shields from fallen enemies, and every so often they'll drop ammunition as well. Shields from enemies are reliable, but for ammo you might need to stop by a depot, which is also a target. But your structure? She's never coming back. So sometimes you make a choice. If you're low, you go to a district with a spaceport and try to escape early, or you keep going and hope for that big payday. There are solid mechanics here. So what's wrong with it? I don't know how to put it, but basically nothing. I mean, there's one mission—
I mean, from what Mandalore has said so far, I can't really see any faults in the gameplay. I'm just pleasantly surprised by all these subsystems that we've thought of to really flesh out the gameplay and increase the replayability tenfold. The amount of customization and player expression here is also just wonderful. Maybe the story might be a bit lacking, but we haven't even delved into that, so I can't make any comments about it. Are there any bugs that are well known and unfixed? We haven't seen any examples of that. I don't know. This just seems like a fun game.
from the campaign where you're supposed to have no ammo, but when you play it in freelance, you do have ammo, but that's more of a bug or an oversight. You might think it's a grindy game, but it's not. If anything, it's remarkably generous and you can get what you want pretty fast. All the usual suspects that would plague a game like this are nowhere to be found. I have no real problems with Brigador. That said, I can definitely see where some things could be improved. The pilots are cool, but I wish they had more quirks. I don't know, like maybe one can turn really fast, or they go in high-speed reverse, or—
there you go. Well, we have all these other things related to the vehicles themselves, and I guess the pilots are more just essentially flavor text. But having individual pilot stats could be neat. That is another system that they have to add onto the game, though. So for an indie dev team, might be a bit too much to chew on. But they've had time to develop the game. I mean, this video is pretty damn old, so I don't know, who knows how the game is currently doing right now. Of course, if you're watching this and you do still play this game, or have played it recently, please do let me know.
Or maybe they don't reverse at all because they're not a coward. How about every enemy is a suicide enemy, but double speed and health? You know, just a bunch of new modifiers to make replaying a mission more interesting or fun. There's more to add, but speaking of interesting, let's talk about the writing a bit.
Okay, here we go.
The hissing of pistons, the whine of servos, armor-shod feet rhythmically stomping, weighed down by the brute power of a railgun. All of these were things he enjoyed. The Buckmaster.
Okay, you might expect the writing to be really basic fluff, but no. There's lore. There's a lot of lore. The story driving the campaign is bare. That's fine. I'd even say that's expected for a game like this. Yet the writing and world building is so well thought out and well realized that it blows my mind. Like, what is this doing here? Most of the writing comes from the views.
For those of you that know me, you guys know I love this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a reason why we're currently on the fighting game arc, right? It may not be well represented in the game itself, but the things that people can come up with, all that crazy stuff, is just so incredibly entertaining for me personally. I love witnessing the kind of worlds that these developers or these writers can come up with, taking ideas that may be familiar and putting their own twist on it. With what Mandalore said here, I am expecting great things.
Of in-universe characters, so you're also getting interesting perspectives on everything. Lore tidbits are one of the things you pay for, and I'd actually say they're worth it. It's strange because I wouldn't normally say a game like this needs more story, but what is here in such a dry state is so good that it makes me wish there was more. I don't think the sequel needs elaborate cutscenes or anything like that. It would be cool to have some of that rustic, home-style Ace Combat chatter, though.
Turn back, Brigador, or be destroyed by those loyal to great leader.
Just for the campaign, let you hear people lose their shit over the radio. I should probably mention that the
That was one of the strong points of Homeworld, I believe, where the voices and your commands and the people piloting the ships that you were commanding, their voices would change depending on the state of battle. And that was something that I found to be incredibly immersive and something I'd never expected. Because at the time, I was still very new to RTS games and I didn't realize like the depths that something like that could actually reach. But it really does enhance the experience. But now that I talked about Homeworld, now I'm feeling a little bit sad of how that series ended up. It's fine. We still have the first game and the spin-off.
Sequel isn't hypothetical. Brigador Killers is coming eventually, but it might need help. As I said before, this game failed to launch. But Brigador has still been getting completely free updates for years. And somehow, they're getting started again. This has killed me inside, so there are some special circumstances here. First of all, I contacted the Polish Information Network. It'll be 60% off the entire weekend through the pinned link. The second part I'm only going to ask sparingly, because the last time I did, the results were downright terrifying. But if you bought Brigador and liked it, leave a positive review on wherever you bought it from. This ain't a review bomb, it's a review boom. So that about does.
Apologies for the intrusion, but the connection past the course is dog shit, and there's no telling how long it'll be before my signal fries on these third world computer parts. Brigador is truly a great game, and I've come only to humbly double endorse it as such. Those of you disappointed in my unusual brevity on it can look forward to a more substantial inspection of the sequel if it actually happens.
Then I would ask, has that actually happened? It's been a very long time since we checked out anything by Seth. But to be completely honest with you guys, the type of audience those videos usually attract to ain't really for me. Regardless though, I highly recommend, if you've never checked out any content by Seth before, to check out his channel.
There's no telling if the sequel will come because anything can happen. Brigador is a great game and it's always broken my heart whenever I hear about it. So give it a spin, I highly recommend it. As for the next video, I have some ideas. 4 or 5 of them. Actually no, I only have one idea. I'll see you then.
Okay. But man, this game is so cool. Thank you for suggesting it. I gotta go search up the soundtrack after this.
I wanted to do a Brigador video a long time. I honestly thought it'd be shorter because I had so little to complain about. Truly a great game. Any interest in the Command & Conquer remasters? I haven't played the new one yet, but all my friends say it's really good. I'm more waiting for something with either Tiberian Sun or Red Alert 2, but both those games look great in OpenRA. So whatever they visually remaster probably won't be as dramatic as this one. Are you a fan of From Software games? Oh yeah, the old Kingsfield stuff and Armored Core, all of that, definitely. Yeah, I like Demon and Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but I haven't played Dark Souls 2 and 3, so I am behind. Don't be expecting a Souls video here though, because there's plenty of those out there.
Someday it'll win a poll.
Fuck it, you have the internet. You've seen them, I know you've seen them. What's been your way to keep sane and healthy during all this? Can this be like a group question for the class? I mean, I'm doing okay, mainly staying inside waiting for the second wave to kick off. But there's definitely been a lot of frustration with some friends and neighbors the past few weeks, but it's fine. I have the coyotes anyways. Come to think of it, I haven't heard from them in a while.
Uh-oh.
Huh.
What was happening there? And honestly, it's kind of making me miss Battletech too. I know that there have been a few comments asking, where Battletech? I've been just super busy with all the other things that I usually fall into, so... But don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. I just really like it. I think it's awesome, I think it's cool, I think this game is cool. And you know what? I think Mandalore is cool, and you should definitely go and support him if you haven't already. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.